The reality of owning a motorcycle, a question I get asked fairly often. Should I buy a bike? Is it worth me buying a bike? You know, what are the repercussions going to be of safety, things like that? What are the benefits, downsides, all of these different things? You know, a lot of people ask, is it going to be worth it financially for me to get a bike? Am I even going to end up riding the bike? And of course, a lot of those things come down to you as a person. Perhaps I can answer that question a little bit better in this video and persuade some people one way or the other. Motorcycles are extremely fun, but there is an inherent danger with them. There's no airbag, there's really no safety on the bike, and the only thing that can really save you is things like gear. A little contradicting because I'm not wearing my jacket right now, but we'll talk about that in a second. Just getting a motorcycle, getting your license, the gear, all of these things is fairly expensive. When buying a motorcycle, you can expect to spend somewhere around $3,000 with the bike, the gear, and doing everything in a way where you can ride the bike you actually buy and it won't break down on you, and you're properly safe for the road. That's kind of what it costs at a bare minimum. And I think a lot of people believe it costs more than that because of how expensive some of these beginner bikes are. But a sport bike doesn't have to be your first bike, and a small sport bike or a brand new sport bike doesn't have to be or shouldn't be the very first thing that you look into. When it comes down to motorcycles and what your first bike is, it really comes down to you as a person, but that's not something that we're going to dive into in this video. I've talked about it a few times in the past as to what's the perfect starter bike or why some of these bikes aren't, or when it comes down to some of the expectations versus the reality of owning a motorcycle. The very first expectation you most likely have, if you're someone who hasn't really looked into it, is I'm gonna be riding my bike all the time. Where honestly, the reality of the situation is most people don't even do 1,000 miles in a year. 1,000 miles in a year is not that much. That's taking the bike out maybe 30 times in an entire summer season, which really isn't that much. For some people, that's literally like taking a bike out like 3 times in a year. But a bigger majority of riders, over 50%, don't even do that much mileage. So if you have the expectation you're gonna ride a lot, you certainly can. But statistically speaking, at least half the people watching this video expecting that aren't going to ride their bikes too much. Another expectation I guess most people have that don't ride are that these things are the biggest death traps in the world. They're super dangerous, and no matter what, there's no good ending on a motorcycle. If you get a bike, it's over. You might as well just pack it up. Where that is not true at all. And if you're someone who's considering getting a motorcycle, I assume that you've done a little bit more research on it. These bikes are dangerous. These things are dangerous. Of course they are. But as a rider, you can choose when and where to ride. And that plays a major impact when it comes down to the danger of riding. I think a lot of people who get motorcycles just don't weigh the consequences as much as they should. And sometimes they end up crashing, and well, it teaches them the lesson that, hey, this thing's not really a toy. You need to take these things seriously, no matter if it's a Grom or a Buell like I'm riding today. The expectation from a lot of people is that these things are super dangerous. And I honestly think people think that they're way more dangerous than they actually are. There is definitely safe ways to ride, and if you're someone who's worried about other people and you live in a traffic city, you can get a dirt bike, you can get a track bike. You don't have to necessarily ride on the road. But if you are willing to take the risk of riding on the road, there's ways that you can mitigate all those things. You know, everyone's going to tell you a story of how they know someone who's died on a motorcycle. But for every one of those stories that I hear or get told, there's some other outlying consequence most of the time as to why they've wrecked. A lot of the time, those consequences are something along the extent of, he was going 100 miles per hour in a 25 in the middle of the night drunk. Yeah, what did you expect to happen? Operating a car while intoxicated is hard enough, and illegal, of course, but operating a motorcycle, not even from a legal standpoint, just from a IQ standpoint, is one of the dumbest things that you can do. operating a two-wheeled weapon between your legs that already has a major chance that you're gonna get hurt on it, and doing that while impaired, I mean, you're just asking to get hurt. And then on top of that, riding at night, you know, some people do it. It's definitely more dangerous. You're not seen by other riders. If you're riding the country roads like I am here, you can't see deer. But there's less drivers around on country roads. But I mean, it's not worth it with the deers, in my opinion. I can't even ride to work now because the sun sets, and my way home, it's just not worth it for me to ride in those situations. How, when, and where you ride, honestly, is the bigger key factor into the danger of riding, rather than just these things are dangerous no matter what. You know, when people ask me, is it worth it? And honestly, I can't answer that question as well as you can answer that question. You know, for me, absolutely, it's worth it. I love riding motorcycles. I love just getting out on the bike, whatever time of day it is, just enjoying a nice ride. There's nothing like it. Riding a motorcycle is one of the most pure experiences that you can get. When you talk about cars, and you know, high horsepower cars are pure, drivers cars and engagement and all those things, a motorcycle provides all of those things that some of the best of best cars do, just in terms of feeling. And when we're talking about speed, I mean, you can't even compare motorcycle speed to car speed. These things are so much faster when it comes down to value for money and performance for money. But I do have to interrupt the video really quickly. If you guys are paying attention to the channel, I have a new company called Vintage Racing Club. We have just launched our limited edition hoodies. There's not too many of them left. You guys have been killing with the support on the hoodies. Get yours while they're still available. But we do have house tees available on the website and a couple of other things. So if you guys want to support the channel and the brand in any way, make sure to go check that out. Shop vintageracingclub.co. Not only that, make sure to check out the podcast on the VRC Studio channel as well. And they're way cheaper. Servicing a Ducati, honestly, is cheaper than servicing a flashy car or an older car or a high performance car. Which is pretty funny, because in the motorcycle world, owning a Ducati and doing a valve service on it is one of the most expensive things you can really run into in terms of regular maintenance. Most motorcycles are very reliable. Most motorcycles are honestly very cheap to keep operational. Most motorcycles will continue to give you a positive experience because there's so much less to break on a bike. I guess I come from the car world, and I laugh many times when someone says, oh, this service is going to cost you so much, or it's so hard to do, or the parts on this thing are so expensive. Where you see something like a car part for a Mazda Miata and it's like 400 bucks. Where on a motorcycle, that's like some of the more expensive stuff that you can get on some of the older bikes. Of course, newer Ducatis, things like that. So there's very expensive parts that can be had. You know, the Mazda Miata is not a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. It's a Miata. It's a $5,000 car. You know, servicing is supposed to be cheap, but cost for a motorcycle is so much cheaper. So if you're asking yourself, you know, if you're a car person, is it worth it in terms of the financial aspect of riding a bike and getting into it, all these things? I think it is. If you're someone who's going to ride it, it's very, very fun. It's a very engaging experience, and it's not quite like anything a car can offer. Even convertibles, things like that, they just don't offer the same experience. You're so exposed on a bike. The experience is just awesome. You're probably not going to ride it as much as you think you are for most people, and service costs are going to be a lot cheaper. The enjoyment and the thrill factor is definitely what most people expect, if not a lot higher than what you expect. And of course, the danger factor is very much there, but you can mitigate it. You can choose to ride on safer roads, safer things, and it's not quite as dangerous as people who don't know anything about this world and just see statistics, or they hear about a crash. Because most of the time, most likely someone who isn't paying attention to this world is going to hear one bad thing, and that's going to be the only thing that they hear about the world. And that's not to take away from all of the things that, you know, are out of the biker's control. Cars not seeing, like, there's a whole bunch of things that go into it. And I made a video talking about the statistics and how they kind of boil down, and I'll link that video down below. And those are the 4 kind of major things I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to take the Buell out on a ride here. It's been a long time since I've rode this bike, and this bike in particular, just like any other bike, does not like to sit. So I thought I'd take it out, exercise it a little bit, get the oil nice and hot, and just go out for a nice little ride. As always, if you guys did enjoy this video, do me a huge favor, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. That's all I really have for this one. Take it easy.